Welcome back to the Holosky Podcast, Listener Experience Edition. We're your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Thursday, Holocult. You know what that means. It's time for Listener Experience. And we are here for it. We got one today. I'm not really sure what it's about, actually, but I know it's an older one. So we're just going to do what we do best.
And go for a ride.
Just going to see where it takes us. But before we get there, we got to get through all the business, do the housekeeping. So check us out at all our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky Podcast, and you'll find us there. If you like a different Holosky experience, hop over to YouTube, where you can watch us live, not live, but recorded, doing these very shows. Kyle's been putting in a lot of time and work, editing some videos to try to get the Holosky to the next level, kind of branch out a little bit, and it's going awesome. They look great. So definitely go over there and check that out and subscribe to the YouTube. If you have a paranormal experience that you'd like to have featured on this very show in the future, Kyle's got some info you're going to want.
It's easy peasy. All you got to do is write your story out, shoot it to the email, which is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. And then you're going to get featured on our lovely show.
Simple.
That easy. That easy.
We'll talk about your weirdness respectfully. It's just how it works.
Of course.
If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. Hop on over to Patreon. You can become a member there for $7 a month. You get early access to shows, ad-free shows, extra shows, coupons and stuff to the store. You get official Casket Breath song drops, which cannot be found anywhere else on the planet except to our Patreon. So it's a cool thing to do. You can also go to holoskypodcast.com and check the merch out. See if there's something you really just can't live without. Buy it and rep the Holocult. Number one thing you can do is share the show word of mouth. Share it on social medias, share it on Reddit. Anytime somebody asks for a podcast, throw our name in the hat. You guys are the backbone of the show. You put in the work, spreading the word. So keep it up. We appreciate it. That's the business. So we're going to dive right in 3 minutes to this listener experience. We've had a listener experience from this particular Holocult member before. I'm trying to remember it. But it's our friend from Instagram, and the Gunslinger followed. So yeah, this is the Gunslinger's experiences. I'm pretty sure we've got a first one. This is probably the next one, maybe. Gunslinger says, "Hello again, Holo Crew. This is and the Gunslinger followed from Instagram. First name Daniel. I'm emailing from one of my throwaway emails. It was originally created to send text messages to my friends when I wanted to screw with them. I wanted to tell you some of my stories. None of them are terribly deep or super weird compared to some of the ones I've heard on here, but it's what I got. So here's one more of several of my stories. About 7 years ago, I had moved back in with my parents while I saved money to buy a house. As I previously stated in my other story, I live in Central Virginia next to Appomattox. I spent nearly all of my free time from work at my best friend's house that he shared with his wife. At the time, he was going to college and he was taking on a huge class load. For the purpose of this story, I will call him Ben. He was getting very little sleep and was quite stressed. One day, I went over to play some video games and hang out, and I noticed he was a little haggard looking, and I asked him what was up. What Ben told me still has me chilled. He said that he had been having nightmares about a strange gray entity. It resembled the creeper from the game Minecraft, but it was between 5 to 6 feet tall and was a dull, dingy gray color. Ben said the face was somewhat blocky in shape and the mouth was super wide on the face, as in the corners of the mouth went almost up to the sides of the head past the face. He would dream and not realize he was asleep, and would be dreaming that he was doing a normal daily activity around the house when he would catch a glimpse of this figure from the corner of his eye. As he would turn toward it, it would rush at him with its claw-shaped hands toward him, and he would startle awake covered in sweat and quite panicked. That isn't the worst part. He said he said this had been a common occurrence for a few weeks. Every time he slept, he had gotten to the point in the last few days that he was terrified of going to sleep and was actively refusing to sleep for as long as he could. Then he starts to see the entity in his waking life. Before I came over, he said he was in the kitchen fixing his lunch when he saw movement in the corner of the dining room behind the table. He glanced up, and there was the gray man. Ben freaked the hell out and screamed and darted toward the bedroom, only to have the gray man circle around to him by the way of the living room before he could get behind the bedroom door. It rushed toward him with outstretched arms, and right before it made contact, it spoke in a high-pitched voice and said, "Gotcha." He woke up on the floor in front of his bedroom about 20 minutes before I arrived. Lunch was still half made on the counter, and there was no sign of anything else in the house. When he told me what was going on, I took it serious because I could tell he was in actual distress. So I did some research and found some stories of gray men, hat men, and other entities that plague people, and found a couple of things for us to try. He and I are both Christian in faith, so I decided to start with that. I figured that whether or not there were other ways to ward off these types of things, using a method based on something you have actual belief and faith in would probably be more effective than something you didn't have faith in. So I found a Catholic church site. We are not Catholic, but it's near impossible to find a Southern Baptist church site that openly teaches on demons, angels, and demonic oppression. The Catholics, however, are full into it. The site provided the info they had on what angels were supposedly assigned to watch over people born at certain times of the year. Ben happened to fall under the eye of Gabriel. So I went to Amazon and ordered him a solid silver pendant of the Archangel Gabriel. It arrived a couple days later, and he and I walked through his house and prayed that anything that did not have good intentions and did not come to do the will of our Father would be banished from his home, and we asserted that whatever was here had no claim on him. From that day forward, after more than a month of torment, he never saw the gray man again, and his night terrors had went away. Now, could it have been stress? Yes, it could. I even suggested that while we were doing all the research and talking. I even figured it to be the result of the massive stress from a buttload of college classes and no sleep. But then I went home. For a 2-week period, I would go to sleep at night only to be awakened after midnight to my bedside lamp having been turned on while I slept. Odd, but I kept telling myself I may have fallen asleep before it turned off. Then, one morning around 3 or 4, I woke up because it sounded like something was rapidly scratching the pillow my head was laying on. My bedside light was on, and something was making fast scratching noises against the pillow in the area right beside my ear. I could not turn my head or move my body, and there was a weight on top of me. I fought with everything I had to turn my head just so I could see what was on me, and slowly, almost like I was submerged in thick mud, I was able to turn my head to look up. As I finally looked up, all the pressure released off my body, and aside from my heart wanting to climb out of my chest, I felt normal. Nothing was in the room with me. I immediately felt that whatever had been harassing Ben may have followed me because we passed it off those few weeks before. So I started to pray for protection and whatever it was to be cast out. I'd gotten myself a pendant of the Archangel Michael on it, as the site I went to had him listed for my date of birth. I got it just because I thought it looked neat. After I prayed to God, I picked up the pendant and have worn it every day since. Now, I don't really believe the pendant protects me, but I do believe my faith in Christ does. I'm not trying to convince anyone to come to my faith with this story. I'm just explaining that it worked for me in this instant and pertains to the events detailed, not trying to be preachy. I wear the pendant to remind me, however, that there are things from other realms that are out there, and that we should be vigilant and open-minded when we hear weird shit from people, because most of their stories are probably true, and that in itself is very terrifying, but that we are not without help when it comes to the supernatural. Thanks for your time and for reading my yet another one of my stories. Give Steve another monster. He's likely parched by now if he read this. I love the podcast, and now, as of this writing, have listened to every episode you have available since I first heard you on Tony's Confessionals. I can't get enough. Stay weird, stay caffeinated, and stay safe. Gunslinger. Gunslinger. First off, hope you're still listening, bro. Haven't heard from you in a minute. I know this was probably submitted years ago, but as we have spoken before, I'm not the best at having a system for our listener experiences. So when I get to them, I get to them.
Start calling it the listener lottery.
Yeah, that does have a kind of a ring to it, doesn't it?
It ain't too bad.
And it's more accurate than we have. First off, what you have going on with, or what you had going on with your buddy here, came across as like almost textbook sort of sleep paralysis when I first started reading it, the first couple paragraphs, where he would see the thing in his sleep. Wasn't necessarily a shadow man per se, but the way that he would be asleep but wouldn't realize he was asleep kind of felt like sleep paralysis as well. And the way this thing kind of was kind of almost stalking him and then like foe attacking him just to breed fear and terror really sank in as like a sleep paralysis sort of entity. But clearly that all changed when this dude started seeing it outside of being asleep.
Yeah. No thanks.
I
It
need
kind
to,
of gave me Green Memory vibes.
yeah.
Because they specifically describe it as a Minecraft character.
I'm looking it up now to
It
see what it
reminds
looks
me
like.
of mine. Seeing a pixelated character reminds you of Super Nintendo video game. And then the fact that it like in a high pitched voice says "gotcha," like it has this playfulness to it, which we were talking about in the research that you've been doing into alien abductions, where they have this deceitful, honest, loving playfulness about them, and only to when those things happen, like when the gotcha moment happens, it really fucking gotcha.
Yeah. It's not the way you want to be got.
Yeah.
I just looked up what a creeper was, and it's weird. It's a weird, blocky character, and the way that he described it with the dingy gray flesh and the smile that goes all the way up to the side of its blocky head, really leaves you uncomfortable. It is interesting. I like the way that you took the time to kind of explain your reasonings behind going the route you did, trying to correct the problem. Like, you're both of Christian faith. You went about it to find protection, and the fact that you went that specific route because you wanted to use something that you did have faith in, you did believe in, as the core foundation of the protection you're getting. I really think that point gets lost sometimes. So bringing that up was a good point to put out there.
And ironically enough, I know that I relate too much with everyone, but same thing happened to me whenever I did my thing with the woman's voice. Do my thing, never heard a sentence.
It's wild.
It's weird. It's something to this day that I can't explain that. Because like I've said before, in my case, I would have put money. It was a form of exploding head syndrome. That's what I legitimately would have put my money on. However, upon doing my thing, asking for protection and rebuking things, so on and so forth, not having that experience in any way, shape, or form, the exploding head syndrome, period, the car door closing noises, or the woman's voice, never having those happen again, I cannot explain that. That has fucked me up for a minute. I can't figure it out. Outside of the obvious, some type of actual intervention. But it is cool to hear it from your perspective and how it actually works. Also, I wouldn't fully doubt that medallion doesn't help you. I think when it comes to anything, if you put the proper intention behind it, it will definitely help you, in
Yep, I
my
was gonna say
opinion.
the same thing. If you put enough intent and faith is a good word. You put enough intent and faith into something, I feel like you can manifest out what you're looking for.
I think so too.
And especially with things like that, like religious medallions and pendants and stuff. It's not only your faith and your intention that's gone into that. Like those figures on those pendants, those archangels and stuff are there for a reason, and you have millions and millions and millions of people that have put intent and faith and protection into those very, I mean, it's essentially a sigil. Just because there's a person on it doesn't make it not that. So you wear that not only with your own faith and intention, but within the faith and intention of people who have put these at the forefront of their protection for the last 2,000 years, you know? So I feel like there is some power to that. And it's probably capped off with your personal intent and faith kind of rounds it all out and brings it all together to essentially protect you, get rid of whatever you're dealing with. And it's strange that he encountered this in waking life. You know, that he saw it in his when he was not asleep, because it almost like he said he was already struggling in not realizing he was asleep. So on one hand, maybe he was asleep when he had the weird kitchen encounter, but on the other hand, maybe all these other encounters happened when he wasn't asleep. So it kind of plays both ways on that.
Yeah.
And having that thing rush at him, and I think Kyle's onto something. The gotcha definitely feels weird. Dazzlers and frighteners, man.
And I don't know. It has because I feel like that's something a kid does, or like I could see me doing that to like my daughter if we're playing. You know what I mean? Like it's
Jump
this.
scare.
Yeah, it's a weird. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's almost like a lovey-dovey thing. Because you wouldn't do that to somebody you disliked.
No.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't like. I don't know. I just don't feel like you would do it to somebody. 'Cause I just feel like the way he describes it, it was childlike. The high pitched voice, the phrase "gotcha." I don't know. Just weird. Just weird to me. It rubs me wrong.
It does feel gross.
Yeah, and I do like your point earlier about it kind of being a sigil-esque situation with the medallion, because if you think about it, like when we was talking to Julie, and she said if you want to contain Lucy to the box, put the
Lord's Prayer
on there. Well, think about that. You were saying how many people's intent gets put into that. Well, did millions and millions and millions of people's intent go into that particular piece of paper? No, it did not. So what I'm getting at is that according to everyone, you don't need that one particular item to have been blessed by a million people for it to have power, right? Same goes for the medallion. Like Steve said, there's so many people that put intent into those depictions, that imagery, all of it, that it would, in theory, draws from all that power.
Yeah,
all that intent goes into it.
I feel like the religious medallion is just a vessel. It's just a vessel for the intent of millions of people that have believed the same thing, have had the same faith in these angels, in these entities as protectors for thousands of years before. And you are encompassing all that when you put your faith into the same thing. Just like the paper with the paper is not the protector. The words, the Lord's Prayer, the words on the paper are essentially what is protecting, because you've had again millions of people that stand by the words written on that paper.
Yeah.
Paper is the spell. The prayer, not the paper. The prayer is the spell, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's etched on the side of the container or if it's on the paper or whatever. It's the words, not the vessel.
I agree.
The faith, not the vessel. So it's
a weird fucking experience, though. Like you said, the fact that it crossed over is even more worrisome. Like it started out in like the sleep state, and then it goes to a waking state.
Yeah, it low key reminds me of what happened after X when I saw the giant shadow entity, because I still am trying to wonder if that was awake or not. Is still kind of a gray area for me.
Those types of dreams are terrifying. The ones where you just can't quite figure it out. Most of the time they're elaborate enough. Like there's been times where I know that I've won the lottery, and then I wake up and I'm fucking stoked. And then it takes you a solid probably 10, 15 minutes
to ruin your day.
You fully wake up and you're like, wait a minute. Oh man.
I do that too.
Yeah.
Like people I haven't talked to in years, I'll dream about them and I'm like, oh shit, like we're connected again. And then I wake up and I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So I don't know. It's like I said, it's really, really bizarre that it crossed over. Which it does give me, like I said, does give me the ET vibes, but at the same time, could have been more of like a demonic influence or nature.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that card getting played, that happening.
I'm wondering. Clearly, he had to have some experience with Minecraft, because he said it looked like a creeper, but it kind of circles back to using screen memories. If that's something that he was passionate about, something he spent a lot of time doing, it's not that far fetched for extraterrestrial or other nefarious beings to use things that you're familiar with. You hear it all the time. Like Kyle hit the nail on the head when he said it. It's strange, and the fact that it manifested itself into real life feels big, feels powerful, that it can go from that dream state into real life. And the fact that he had just
think about.
Yeah, and he had just passed out on the floor, didn't even finish making his dinner, like couldn't even make it into the bedroom. So it makes you wonder what happened in that about half hour that he was out.
That's what I'm saying. Like it definitely gives me heavy ET vibes.
Yeah.
And that's something I never really considered either. I know that I probably should have, but the thought process of demons being able to do the same shit, to have like a screen memory aspect to them, because why not, right? I would
yeah, that's not that far fetched. I mean, they can, people with legitimate demonic possession speak languages that they've never learned, languages that have been dead for thousands of years. Like they know personal information on the exorcists, and like throwing a screen memory here and there probably ain't nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
And the fact that it kind of attached itself to you as well it feels nefarious and kind of in that demon niche.
Kind of, yeah, I feel that way too.
And since you've already it's almost like it didn't have the same power over you that it had over your friend. I feel like maybe there was something going on in your friend's life. It could be the stress. He could have had private stuff going on that this thing really manifested and really came in swinging. And then you poked your nose into their business, got him the medallion, cleansed everything, got him back to where it needed to be. When I feel like in that time, you probably didn't put the same amount of effort into yourself since you weren't experiencing it, but you still took the time to purchase the medallion.
Yeah.
That gave you kind of a blanket sort of protection, but the thing still came full force. That's why you got a little bit of what was going on. The lights turning on, little poltergeist action there, and then you had the typical sleep paralysis episode, like the old hag syndrome, where like something's pinning you down, you don't know what it is, you got the fear, but you remember you have the medallion, which again, vessel for faith, vessel for protection. Boom, turn to it. Bada bing, problem solved.
I like it. I like its sound theory.
It's an interesting case.
Gave him just enough layer of protection, and then when he started to put his intent into it, then it cranked that bitch up.
Yep, just enough to take the edge off.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope you're still listening, Gunslinger. Thanks for taking the time to send that in. I'm always like hearing from you. I know we're not the best at communicating, but I am interested in your encounters and stuff. So if you're still out there, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're safe. Got any more weirdness, shoot them our way. I promise I'll try to get to it quicker than 3 years. I don't know. But thanks for hanging out with us on this Thursday Holo Cult. Again, check us out Mondays when our regular show drops every week. Every other Wednesday, you can visit the Night Shift live on YouTube, but you need to go over there anyway and subscribe because the videos are popping. And the audio from those videos drop on the weekends. We don't do the live, so every other Wednesday you get an audio from the Night Shift. So there's all kinds of hollow goodness out there. Hope everybody's week went well. Hope this is enough little hollow nugget to get you through the end of the week. We appreciate you all. Thanks for all the work you do. Thanks for putting our name out there. Thanks for making this a reality for us, that we get to do this and come and hang out with you guys all the time. It's been a wild ride. Until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and stay protected from Minecraft entities.